Once upon a time, in a small town cafe where the smell of fresh, baked bread and roasted coffee beans wrapped around every guest like a comforting hug, there worked a young waitress named Clara. Life had not been easy for her. She lived in a modest apartment, paid her way through night school, and cared deeply for her ailing mother. Despite her struggles, Clara had a kind heart and a warm smile that never failed to brighten someone's day. Customers often said she had a way of making the ordinary feel extraordinary, even if all she did was pour them a cup of coffee. One chilly morning, when the first rays of sun painted the cafe windows in soft gold, an old man shuffled in. His coat was worn, his shoes scuffed, and his hands trembled slightly as he gripped a cane. He looked like just another tired soul passing through, invisible to most of the world. He sat quietly at a corner table, gazing out at the street as though searching for something lost long ago. Clara noticed him right away. "Good morning, sir," she said gently, walking over with her notepad. "Would you like some coffee to warm you up?" The old man nodded with a faint smile. His voice was quiet when he asked, "Just a coffee, please, nothing more." When Clara returned with the steaming cup, he reached into his pocket only to realize he had no money with him. A look of embarrassment crossed his face, and he muttered an apology, saying he would leave. But Clara placed the cup down in front of him anyway. "Don't worry about it," she said softly. "This one's on me. Everyone deserves a warm cup of coffee now and then." The old man's eyes glistened as though her simple act of kindness had touched something deep within him. He sat there for nearly an hour, sipping the coffee slowly, occasionally watching Clara as she worked with a graceful kindness that seemed effortless. She never once treated him differently from the other customers. When he finally stood up to leave, he thanked her quietly, almost reverently, and walked out into the cold morning air. Days turned into weeks, and Clara nearly forgot about the old man. Her days were filled with long shifts, school assignments, and caring for her mother. Life remained a cycle of exhaustion and resilience, yet she never let hardship steal her compassion. Then, one afternoon, something extraordinary happened. A sleek black car pulled up in front of the cafe, and from it stepped the very same old man. Except now he was dressed in an elegant suit, his shoes polished, his posture proud. A hush fell over the cafe as he entered, radiating an aura of quiet power. Clara was stunned, but she walked up to him with the same warm smile she had offered before. "Good afternoon, sir. Back for another coffee?" she asked lightly. The man's lips curved into a knowing smile. "Yes, but this time I'd like to pay." He sat at the same corner table, but instead of drinking in silence, he asked Clara to join him for a moment. Hesitant but polite, she agreed, curious about the sudden change in his appearance. The man looked her in the eye, and his voice carried the weight of truth. "My name is Edward Hale," he said. "Perhaps you don't recognize it, but in certain circles it is well known. I am a businessman, a billionaire, some say. I've spent my life building empires, but money has never been what I valued most. You see, I disguised myself to find something far rarer than wealth, genuine kindness, the kind that expects nothing in return. Many people serve me well when they know who I am. Few show me compassion when they believe I have nothing to give. But you, Clara, you offered me coffee with nothing but sincerity in your heart." Clara's breath caught. She didn't know what to say, so she only shook her head. "I didn't do anything special," she whispered. Edward smiled softly. "That's what makes it special." From that day forward, Edward returned often. Sometimes he came as the well-dressed billionaire, sometimes once again as the humble old man, and no matter how he appeared, Clara treated him with the same kindness. Slowly, a friendship blossomed between them, one rooted not in wealth or appearances, but in humanity. Months later, Edward revealed something even more surprising. "I'm not just looking for kindness in strangers," he admitted one evening. "I've been searching for someone who could walk beside me in life. Money attracts many, but love, true love, is rare, and in you, Clara, I see both kindness and strength. You didn't just give me coffee, you gave me dignity when I had none. That is worth more than all the riches I own." Clara was stunned by his words. She had never dreamed of such a proposal, nor of a life so different from her own. She had always believed love should be rooted in respect, care, and understanding, not money or status. So she asked for time, time to know him beyond his wealth, time to see if their hearts truly aligned, and Edward, unlike many men of power, respected her answer. He courted her gently, not with diamonds or lavish promises, but with shared moments, conversations under starlit skies, laughter in the quiet cafe, and the simple joy of being with someone who valued truth over appearances. Clara came to see the man behind the fortune, the soul who longed for companionship as deeply as she longed for stability and hope. Eventually, love found its way between them, not rushed, not forced, but steady and real. And when Clara finally agreed to marry Edward, she did so not because of his billions, but because of his heart. Their story spread quietly at first, whispered about in the town. The waitress who gave away a cup of coffee and gained a lifelong partner, and the billionaire who found love not in mansions or boardrooms, but in the warm light of a small town cafe. It served as a reminder to everyone who heard it that the smallest acts of kindness can change lives in ways we cannot imagine. Clara had not known she was serving a billionaire, nor that her generosity would lead to love. All she knew was that in a world often rushed and indifferent, compassion still mattered. And so, the story lived on, a gentle testament to the power of kindness, that a simple cup of coffee, freely given, could open the door to a life filled with love, respect, and the kind of wealth no fortune could ever buy. Disclaimer: this story is a work of fiction created for inspirational purposes. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events, is purely coincidental. Sometimes in life, the greatest treasures are discovered in the most ordinary places, and the most powerful lessons come from the simplest acts of kindness. Let us imagine a moment so small it could have been overlooked, but so profound it would go on to change two lives forever. A weary old man, dressed in a worn coat, walks into a little cafe one cold morning. His shoes are tired, his hands shake from both age and hardship, and his eyes carry the weight of 1,000 untold stories. To many, he is invisible, just another stranger drifting through the world. But to one young waitress, he is more than just another customer. He is a human being deserving of warmth, respect, and dignity. She doesn't know his name, she doesn't know his story, she doesn't know if he can even pay for what he orders. All she knows is that he is someone who needs kindness. And so, when he reaches into his pocket and realizes he cannot afford his coffee, she does not scold him, she does not turn him away. Instead, she smiles and places the warm cup in front of him, saying softly, "This one's on me." That tiny act of compassion, that simple decision to give without expecting anything in return, becomes the spark that changes everything. What she doesn't realize in that moment is that this man is not who he appears to be. Beneath the disguise of worn clothes and humble posture is a billionaire, a man who has spent his life surrounded by wealth, power, and influence, yet who feels an emptiness money cannot fill. He is not searching for someone impressed by his fortune. He has seen enough of that. No, he is searching for something rare, something priceless, genuine kindness, the kind that expects nothing in return, the kind that shines even when no one is watching. And in that small cafe, through a simple cup of coffee freely given, he finds it. He sees in that young waitress not just generosity, but authenticity. In a world where so many chase wealth and appearances, she reminds him of what truly matters, the human heart. Time passes, and when he returns to the cafe, no longer in disguise but in his true identity, the young waitress treats him no differently than she did before. She does not bow to his wealth, nor does she seek favors. She serves him with the same warmth and respect, proving that her kindness was never a performance, but a reflection of who she truly was. And it is in that authenticity that love begins to grow. Now, what does this story teach us? It teaches us that kindness is never wasted. It teaches us that wealth cannot buy sincerity, that power cannot replace compassion, and that the simplest gestures often carry the greatest weight. That young waitress did not give coffee to a billionaire. She gave dignity to a man she thought had nothing, and in doing so, she opened the door to a future she never imagined. How often do we underestimate the power of small acts? A smile to a stranger, a kind word to someone who feels invisible, a moment of generosity when we expect nothing in return. These are the things that ripple through the world in ways we cannot see. We live in a society that often measures value in numbers, in money, in possessions, in status. But true value, the kind that lasts, is measured in character. Who are you when no one is watching? How do you treat those who have nothing to offer you? That is the measure of real wealth. The billionaire in our story had everything material one could dream of, but he was searching for love, for truth, for someone who could see him not as a bank account, but as a man. And he found it not in grand mansions or glittering ballrooms, but in a small town cafe, through the heart of a woman who gave freely without expecting anything in return. That is the power of kindness. It pierces through disguise, it reaches beyond appearances, it touches the very soul. And so, the keynote here, the message I hope stays with you long after this story ends, is simple. Never underestimate the impact of your kindness. You may never know who is watching, you may never know whose life you are touching, you may never know what doors are opening because you chose compassion over indifference. Perhaps the person you help today will go on to change the world tomorrow. Perhaps the coffee you pay for, the hand you extend, the smile you share, will be the very thing that restores someone's faith in humanity. Kindness costs nothing, but its value is immeasurable. It breaks down barriers, heals wounds, and bridges the distance between souls. And in a world where so many are searching for love, for truth, for belonging, kindness is the one gift we can all give freely. So let this story remind you, be kind, not because of who someone is, not because of what they can offer you, but because kindness itself is who you are. Be kind when no one is watching. Be kind when it is inconvenient. Be kind when the world tells you to look away. Because one day, in the most unexpected of ways, your kindness may come back to you, not as a reward, but as a reminder that love, respect, and humanity are the greatest treasures of all. And just like the waitress who thought she was giving away nothing more than a cup of coffee, you may discover that you were, in truth, giving away the very thing that changes your life forever.